Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to my channel, My Loverlies. If you've never been here before, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I am so happy you found me. I do so hope that you will like and subscribe before you leave. Become part of the Mama family. Mama's got your back, at least where makeup's concerned, and definitely when that makeup is cheap. Today is True Love Tuesday. We've got such a cute story to go over this week. Before we get started, a very special, very warm welcome to any of those that are new to my channel. I am so incredibly happy that you are here. If you enjoy the content, I do so hope that you will mash that thumbs up button. I hope that you will subscribe if you have not already. And I hope that you will ring my bell, turn on your notifications, so that way, next time I upload a video, you can come right back here and we can hang out together again. I definitely do not want you forgetting all about me. Guys, I do have my eye makeup done already. It is because I cannot do my eyes and tell you a story at the same time, just not capable of it. But I did make sure to film a TikTok on today's eye look if you're interested. I used the Rude Cosmetics Academia Attitude I used this bad boy right here. This is the Rude Cosmetics Attitude Academia eyeshadow palette. This is what she looks like. Stunning. Rude Cosmetics is such a great, super affordable brand. If you haven't checked them out, you definitely should go do that. But like I said, I made sure to film a TikTok on today's eye look. It's giving circus vibes. It's giving pastel banana. I'm kind of here for it. I will make sure to have the links for the TikTok as well as all of my other socials, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff in the description box below. Guys, if you are not following me on all my other socials, you definitely should go do that. I post fun content every single day. And if you're following me everywhere, you don't have to worry about missing a single moment of it. Also, I will make sure to put a full list of everything that I use in today's video in the description box as well. I don't usually talk too awful much about the makeup that I'm using. I like to focus on the story. But, of course, if you have any questions about what I used or how I used it, all you have to do is leave me a comment and I will get back to you. Alright, my loves. With all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive in to the story. So, this week we are talking about Jenny McCarthy and Donnie Wahlberg. Now, I think I did a story, I think it was last week or the week before, where it had, when I talked about Jim Carrey, so I think it was last week. And Jenny McCarthy was kind of mentioned in that video. And I was like, and I kind of talked about her and Donnie for just a second. So I figured it would be a great segue into this week's video. Guys, if you've never been here for True Love Tuesday, I sit here, I tell you an epic love story, all the while doing my makeup. We just sit, we hang out, we have a good time. I am a sucker for a good love story, so I hope that you are too. Now, there are quite a few notes for today's video. If you see me looking over in this direction, it is because I am looking at my notes. There's 10 pages of notes for today's video, so we're going to be here for a minute. I'm going to say we're going to be here for about an hour. So sit back, relax, get comfy, get cozy, and let's go ahead and dive right in. Jenny and Donnie are they're genuinely perfect for each other. I feel like it took them a while to meet each other and to finally find each other. But after they did, it was like the good Lord handpicked them for each other. He made Donnie for Jenny and Jenny for Donnie. I truly, truly believe this. Since they've been together, they have been nothing but incredibly, disgustingly happy. And I think that's kind of fantastic. Guys know I like to talk about each part of the whole and then talk about them together as a couple. We're going to do all the backstory, all of the past relationships, all of that good stuff. We're going to start with Miss Jenny this week. Jenny was born Jennifer Ann McCarthy. She was born November 1st, 1972. She was born at Little Company of Mary Hospital in Southwest Chicago. She is definitely a Chicago girl, born and raised. She lived in the suburb of Evergreen Park, Illinois. Yeah, so she is a Chicago girl through and through. She was born to a working class Catholic family and is the second of 4 daughters. Could you imagine? 4 daughters in that house growing up. Her poor father, her poor daddy. Her sisters are named Lynette, Joanne, and Mary. And then, fun factoid, Melissa McCarthy, who we're going to talk about next week, because her love story is freaking fantastic. And I have a genuine thing for Miss Melissa McCarthy, because she is a fellow big girl, and she's a freaking queen, and I love her. But her love story is super cute as well. But Melissa McCarthy is actually Jenny McCarthy's cousin. Can you believe it? On her father's side. So funny. It is such a small world. I say Hollywood it's a big town, but it's a small world. Everybody is either related or has dated or knows each other. It's kind of insane. Jenny's mother was a housewife. Her mother's name was Linda. She was a housewife and then also a courtroom custodian, while her father, Don, was a steel mill foreman. So very, very hardworking parents. They worked very hard to provide for all of their children and did a really, really good job of it. And I think at this point, they're just your typical, very suburban, very, very Chicago family. She goes to a Catholic school. They go to mass, when they're supposed to go to mass. Don't know if you go to mass on Sundays or not, but they go to mass. They do all the things. They are practicing Catholics, things like that. And because of that, she had a pretty standard Catholic childhood as well. Sex was not talked about. It just, like, everybody kind of kept things to themselves, and she was very strict, like, you know what I mean, the very standard Catholic kind of upbringing. And I think this had a lot to do with how she kind of wilded out when she was a little bit older. As a teenager, Jenny attended the Mother McAuley Liberal Arts High School. Fun factoid, she later wore the sweater from her high school in her very first Playboy photo shoot. Absolutely insane. After graduating from high school, she attended Southern Illinois University. She only went there for about 2 years before dropping out to really focus on her career. Now when Jenny speaks about her time in school, she says that she felt very much like an outcast. She was bullied mercilessly and relentlessly throughout the entirety of elementary school, leading into high school. This was before she kind of blossomed and bloomed into the absolutely stunning goddess-like woman that she became. And because of that, she felt very, very just undervalued. She felt very outcast. She felt very lonely. Now, leading into high school, she kind of bloomed a little bit, and she ended up joining the cheerleading squad, things like that. She gained quite a bit of popularity. She was very popular with the boys, things like that. So she never really had a ton of problems after middle and elementary school. However, that period in her life really left its mark. And I remember middle school being the absolute worst, some of the worst years of my life. Middle school children are absolutely freaking brutal. Now, after high school, she ends up going and she attends Southern Illinois University. She attends that school for about 2 years until she decides to drop out and really focus on her career. Now, Miss Jenny must have had a guardian angel or a fairy godmother looking out for her, because the minute she decided on a career path, it just came very, very easily to her. Not only did it come easily, but it came almost instantly. During Jenny's youth, of course, if you are a child of the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, you will know exactly what Playboy magazine was, right? I know about it because I had a dad and I had a brother, and Playboy, there was always a Playboy in the house at some point in time. Now, she grew up, kind of sneaking in to her dad's library and looking at his Playboy magazines, and she always thought that the women in those magazines were so beautiful, and she knew that when she grew up, she wanted to be just like that. Now, to each their own. I know what a Playboy magazine is. Like I said, I had a brother, I had a dad. Playboy was in the house, and I've looked at my fair share of Playboys. Now, I never personally experienced the want to be in a Playboy magazine, but I can kind of understand. I can understand the urge, right? But she actually ends up applying. Now, the whole Playboy process, it is a process. Like, you have to go and you have to interview, and it's just like this big long thing. And there were like thousands of women every single month that would apply to be in this magazine. And you were super, super lucky if you ever got picked. Well, this woman was incredibly lucky because she ended up being picked for a photo shoot for the month of October in 1993. So Playboy magazine calls her and they offer her this photo shoot, and they offer to pay her $20,000 for this session, right? And this is 1993. $20,000 in 1993 is so much money. Like, it's a good amount of money now, but in 1993, before inflation, like, this was like her hitting the jackpot. Now, when you go in to shoot a Playboy photo spread, you get a lot of artistic freedom. You get a lot of artistic license. You get to pick what you want your theme to be. You get to pick your persona, things like that. And Jenny just kind of went with, like, she was a little Catholic schoolgirl, so that's kind of like what she went in with, right? So she ends up wearing part of her Catholic school uniform in this photo shoot, and she makes this whole persona around herself being this very innocent, very shy Catholic schoolgirl. And the men just ate it up. Her magazine flew off the shelves. Her photo spread ended up being one of the most popular of the year. And after she does this photo shoot, she ends up winning Playmate of the Month for October 1993. With that comes another paycheck. So she's just like, she's rolling in it at the moment. Her career, like, literally, she's gone from zero to hero overnight. And this was that first real big taste of fame, and this was enough to get her hooked. Jenny is experiencing her very first taste of fame. She is experiencing her first real sense of success. She is so proud of herself, right? She's gone and she's done this very, very brave thing. She has done this photo shoot, and not only has she, like, taken this giant risk, and it is paid off monumentally, right? She is absolutely basking in the glow of success until she goes back home. And y'all, ain't nobody at home happy. Nobody at home is happy about what has just happened. They are, in fact, very, very upset about it. She gets home and she is pretty much verbally abused. She is torn down. How could she? She's called a loose woman. They call her morals into question. Her little sisters, they all get bullied and taunted and teased at school mercilessly because their sister has just been naked in a magazine. Like, it's really, really bad. And of course, unintended consequences are still consequences. And she really struggled with that. On top of the fact that her family was just really not happy about it. Of course, you have to remember that she is coming from a very, very strict, very traditional Catholic background, right? So posing nude in a magazine is definitely not something that would ever be considered as, like, a good thing to do. So she's coming down off of this, success high that she's on, and she gets home and they kind of bring her down to earth just a little bit. And they really just, like, they give it to her. Especially her aunts. Her aunts were actually Catholic nuns, and they told her that she was going to burn in hell. They told her that she was damned for the rest of eternity. They were worried about her spiritual and her spiritual wellness, things like that. They were just really, really giving her a run for her money and really making her doubt every decision that she had ever made. Jenny, however, is not going to be. She refuses to be cowed. She refuses to back down. And she decides that she is instead going to stand her ground. And she is going, this is her career of choice. This is what she wants to do. If they don't like it, they don't have to look at the magazines. They don't have to support her. They don't have to buy the magazines, things like that. But this is what she's choosing to do. And either they cut her off and they disown her, or they just basically freaking get used to it, right? Her family like stops just short of like excommunicating her, of basically cutting her off and disowning her. But eventually all of the fuss dies down and life pretty much goes back to normal. For the family anyway, because now at this point Jenny's a freaking celebrity. She is, well and truly, she is like, she's getting all kinds of recognition, she's getting all kinds of attention. Job offers are literally flooding through the door. Doors have opened for her and the opportunities are endless. Against the onslaught of hatred that was pretty much spewed at her by everyone she knew, she continued on her journey and she continued to be part of the Playboy brand. She continued to do appearances, things like that. And actually, she ended up winning Playmate of the Year for 1993. Her issue, the October issue in 1993, ended up being the best-selling issue of the entire year, and she was voted Bunny of the Year and won it. Along with winning that title came a bunch of other perks. It came with a pretty nice paycheck too. She was actually paid $100,000. $100,000 for the rest of the year, and then through the next year, she makes appearances, she does like TV spots, things like that. She's on Playboy TV, all kinds of things. And this is actually what leads her into like TV hosting and things like this. She ends up getting Hef ends up offering her a job on Playboy TV on a show called Hot Rocks as a host, and it was basically an uncensored music video channel, kind of like VH1, but like dirty kind of. Anyway, she ends up hosting this and she does fantastically at it. She has a wonderful sense of humor. The audience really, really likes her, and what's bizarre enough is she is just as popular with women as she is with men. And oftentimes a woman will like instantly hate on someone she finds to be more attractive than her. But there's something about Jenny that was really just disarming and so incredibly charming. She's funny and she's goofy and she's silly, but she just had a way of connecting with both male and female audiences. And because of this, eventually other doors opened, and she was offered the kind of the world of TV, and TV hosting was kind of like wide open to her. Her ratings were fantastic. Her likableness was really, really through the roof. So other channels, other stations really wanted her, and they wanted her badly. Pretty soon, she had offers from multiple different TV stations to do multiple other hosting gigs, and she eventually ends up accepting an offer to MTV. And MTV was really, really hot at this point in time, had basically just come out, and so they needed like this hot, young, new kind of TV host to host their hot, new, young programs, right? So she ends up accepting the role for a new kind of like, do you guys remember those dating shows back in the 90s? They were so terrible. Like, do you remember the Date Your Mom one? The Next Bus? That was one of the absolute worst ones. Anyway. She ends up hosting this dating show, and it's called Singled Out, and she has a freaking blast. She has a blast, makes good money, gains even more popularity throughout the course of that show. And this, again, becomes just another stepping stone to a very long and very fruitful career of TV hosting and things like that. Now, again, because her popularity is still so intense, like her numbers are soaring, she's getting a ton of views, things like that. Like, people are tuning in to watch her. So Playboy actually ends up asking her to come back, and they ask her to do another photo shoot, which of course she agrees to. And again, this new magazine, or this new photo shoot, is just as popular as the first one was. But then after that, she actually gets into a little bit more of behind the scenes stuff when it comes to Playboy. She actually ends up being the photographer for a couple of different shoots. She does a couple of photo shoots for the cyber girls, like their online stuff. She doesn't do a lot of the magazine work, but she does have a hand in doing quite a few things for Playboy Online. stuff like that, which she absolutely loves. But then, of course, her career has to move on, so she ends up she just ends up doing a ton of stuff. She goes on to WWE. She does a cameo on there, and she's kind of like, what was it? She was a guest valet for a pay-per-view event, got paid a butt ton for that as well. And then after she does the TV host thing, she decides that she kind of wants to try her hand at acting. Like, can she do it? Is it possible? Can she make the leap? So she ends up going out, doing a couple of auditions. She ends up being cast in The Stupids, which is another like comedy series, and it does pretty well as well. But it gives her a little bit of experience, and she takes that, she runs with it. Now, after kind of bebopping around the television, TV hosting kind of world for a little bit, she decides that maybe she wants to try a movie. Maybe she wants to try her luck on the silver screen, and she does. She eventually gets cast in a couple of things. I think she was in Scream. She was in a bunch of things. Now, she never really had any big, giant, juicy roles, but that's not quite what she was looking for. She was just looking to be a part of it, and she did. Anything this woman set her sights on, she eventually accomplished. She is nothing if not tenacious, and she is, I don't know, I just think she's kind of freaking awesome, honestly. Like I said, she sets her sights on the silver screen. She ends up getting cast in a movie called Basketball. It was a pretty big comedy back in the day. Did pretty well. And then she was cast in the movie Diamonds. I think that one pretty much bombed. But Diamonds is where she met her first husband, actually. So all in all, I guess it kind of worked out pretty well for her. But after that, she has worked steadily since then. Since the beginning of her career, she has worked, like, she's been in absolutely everything. She hosted New Year's Eve. You know, when they dropped the ball in New York, she hosted that live for, like, I want to say something like 5 or 6 years. Like, she was fantastic at it. She ended up getting given her own TV shows. She's had 2 of her own TV shows. Was the Jenny McCarthy show, and then it was also something else that I cannot remember the name of. But she has had she was on The View for a little while. Like, she's been there, done that. She's definitely made her rounds around Hollywood. Now, the thing that she's been doing most recently is she is a judge on The Masked Singer, which is a fantastic, super awesome show. People dress up in costumes and they sing, and you kind of have to guess who they are. It's fantabulous. If you've never watched it, I do think that you would enjoy it. We usually watch it for family nights and like at dinner, stuff like that. Super, super fun show. But that's about where she is right now at this moment. She also opened up her own beauty line. It is called Formless Beauty. We'll get more into that in just a little bit. But yeah, she is a very, very successful woman. Now, when it comes to her dating life, she is a get back on the horse and do it again kind of girl. Like, she is not afraid to put herself out there. She is not afraid of getting hurt, and she has been hurt quite a few different times. And she never lets it knock her down. It seems like she is nothing if not, like I said, tenacious. She is determined, and when she wants something, she goes until she achieves it. Now, all in all, I was able to discover 8 different romances that this woman has had throughout her time in Hollywood. So we're going to, again, of course, start at the beginning and work our way towards the end. The first romance began almost before she was even famous. Ray Manzella is a talent agent and a talent manager, things like that. He's well known for discovering and representing several high-end models and clients. He's most notably known for was known for discovering and dating Pamela Anderson, who again was another very famous playmate as well. So he's pretty well known for discovering beautiful women, and he was pretty much Jenny's first contact in the celebrity kind of sphere. He's the one that actually ended up helping her get that first role, that first TV hosting role on Singled Out on MTV. So he did help her career quite a bit. He was also much, much older than her. He is 76 now and she is 51. So that's like, what, 20 years older than her? So yeah, he definitely was a lot older than her, but you know, Jenny is just kind of like down for whatever. So they date for a little while. They date for actually, I think 3 years. They met in 1994, just after Jenny's first Playboy spread. He helped her get the MTV Singled Out hosting position, and their romance lasted for about 3 years until they decided to move on to bigger and better things, and she just kind of went on with her life. But again, they parted ways very, very amicably. I think for the most part, it was more of like, thanks for all the help, you know what I mean? Now, romance number 2 is more like a short fling than a romance. Dino Stamatopoulos, it is a Greek name and it is very, very long, so I'm probably mispronouncing it. But they dated sometime in the mid-90s, although details about the relationship are very, very hazy. He is actually an incredibly private man. He is the one who is responsible for a lot of the Adult Swim, you know, the Nickelodeon Adult Swim cartoons. He's the one that does a lot of those. So pretty funny guy, but very, very private. So they dated for a little while, just a couple of months. But again, they wanted different things and they just kind of went their own separate ways. Romance number 3 was like all about pure physical attraction. Jenny had a short but very intense affair with Ivan Sergey during 1996, and they were only together for a few months. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he was really, really into Jenny, and Jenny was really, really into him, but he wanted a relationship, and she just wasn't at that point in her life yet. Again, details are very, very hazy, but he was just a year older than her, and incredibly good looking, so that relationship was all about the physical. Next up, romance number 4 would turn out to be marriage number 1. This is when she meets her first husband, John Mallory Asher, and they first crossed paths when Jenny was on the set of Diamonds, and this was in 1998. Their relationship progressed incredibly quickly. They dated for a little bit over a year before she announced that she was engaged. They began dating soon after meeting and eventually got engaged in January of 1999. After dating less than a year, they got married later that year in September, and after around 3 years of marriage, they had their first and only child together. It's also Jenny's first and only child, just period. They had a little boy named Evan. They had him in May of 2002. Now, very sadly, pretty soon after the birth of their son, their marriage really started to crumble. The lines of communication just ceased to exist, and pretty shortly thereafter, they ended up filing for divorce. The divorce was over pretty quickly. They parted terms pretty amicably as well. He definitely is still a part of his son's life, things like that. They really focused on having a good co-parenting relationship for the betterment of their child. The divorce was finalized in September of 2005, and then of course Jenny went on to date and all of that good stuff. But they both focused on raising their child, and they got joint custody. Jenny's next relationship was part of last week's True Love Tuesday. Her next relationship was with comedy actor Jim Carrey. Now, she met him in 2005. They were together for 5 years. They split in 2010. During their time together, she received the autism diagnosis for her son Evan and became an autism activist. Her and Jim both opened up a nonprofit for autistic awareness together. It was called Generation Rescue, and their lives together were pretty fantastic until they just weren't anymore, and then her and Jim just kind of ended up walking away from each other. Now, the only sad part about their breakup really is the fact that it impacted Evan in a very big way. He got very used to having Jim around all the time, and then when Jim left, he basically just said deuces to everything that had to do with their life together, and unfortunately that included Evan. However, Jenny is not one to stay down in the dumps for very long. She very quickly picked herself up and moved on to even bigger and even better things. Romance number 6 was very much your stereotypical rebound kind of situation. She ended up hooking up with a fitness model by the name of Jason Tui in August of 2010, just a couple of months after her and Jim broke up. Just 4 months after they broke up, by the way. After meeting through mutual friends, they went to a few events together. They would work out and stuff like that a lot together, but the romance kind of like fizzled out before it even really began, and they just kind of went their own separate ways. Romance number 7 was exactly what Jenny needed at this point in time. She began dating entertainment lawyer Paul Krapelka sometime in January of 2011. Now, this was a long-distance relationship, but somehow, despite the long-distance-ness of the relationship, they made it work, and they made it work for as long as she could. Jenny actually found herself flying back and forth from, I think it was Los Angeles to Boston almost every single week. They were really, really happy with each other. The relationship was progressing beautifully until the long distance really did just get the better of them. However, the distance between them eventually took its toll, and they ended up having to, they had to face reality that it just wasn't the right time for their relationship. And though they did split, they continue to stay friends, and they're actually still in contact to this day. Now, her next relationship would be the very last relationship she would have before she would meet her next husband and the love of her life. Romance number 8 was just it just happened somehow. So after the last romance with Paul, Jenny kind of took a minute. She took 8 months, actually. She took 8 months to really just sit back and relax. She didn't worry about being in a relationship. She didn't worry about a man. She just took 8 months to focus on her son, to focus on her career, and just focus on just basically enjoying herself. And then, all of a sudden, this relationship just kind of pops up out of thin air. She ended up really just kind of jumping into this next relationship head first. She didn't really think too awful much about it. I think she was attracted to this man and decided, let's just go for it. She actually ended up dating NFL player Brian Urlacher in April of 2012. He was a linebacker for the Chicago Bears, and guys, they just hit it off instantly. The attraction was intense. Their compatibility was through the roof, and their relationship was really kind of just really, really awesome. However, as perfect as they seemed for each other, the relationship was never meant to last. It was only supposed to be a fling, and that's exactly what it is. They were together for 4 months. They had a really fantastic, furiously just in love 4 months together, and then they both went their separate ways. However, they do both still speak, they're still in contact, and they still actively support each other's careers. And then next, she met the absolute love of her life, Mr. Donnie Wahlberg. And then there was Donnie. Donnie was born Donald Edmund Wahlberg Jr. on August 17th, 1969, in the Dorchester neighborhood of Boston. He is the 8th out of 9 children. Absolutely insane. He has 8 brothers and sisters. Kind of crazy, really. So, his older siblings are Arthur, Jim, Polly, Robert, Tracy, Michelle, and Debbie. And then, of course, you have Donnie. And then you have his younger brother, Mr. Marky Mark. Donnie began his music career as the leader of the late 80s, early 90s boy band, the New Kids on the Block, and he had quite a bit of success with that band. He also has 3 half-siblings from his father's first marriage, and the names of those siblings are Donna, Scott, and Buddy. Now, his mother, Alma Elaine, was a bank clerk and a nurse's aide. Sadly, she passed away on April 19th, 2021. His father, Donald Edmund Wahlberg Sr., was a teamster and a truck driver. A teamster, from what the definition I could find of it, is when you drive horses and things like that, in a carriage. I'm not exactly sure how how true to fact that is, so don't quote me on that one. But we do know he was pretty much a truck driver. He was like a delivery driver. Donnie's parents very sadly divorced in 1982. When it comes to Donnie's career, he has done a little bit of everything. He is a singer, a songwriter, he is an actor, he's a producer. He hasn't been in the music game for quite a while. He really has been focusing on TV and acting in the last quite a few years. I would say the last decade. But he got his start in the very beginning by being a singer, just like his little brother. He was a founding member of the boy band New Kids on the Block. Then he was also in Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. When it comes to his acting career, some of his best known roles include he was in the Saw films, he was in The Sixth Sense, he played Bruce Willis's very deranged patient. No, I don't want to do any spoilers, but it's a super old movie, so if you haven't seen it, he actually ends up being the one who actually unalived Bruce Willis in that movie. He was in the movie Bullet with Mickey Rourke and Tupac Shakur in 1996. He's done quite a bit. Now, he's also done quite a bit of TV as well. Most recently, he has been on the show Blue Bloods, and he's had a recurring role on that show for quite some time now. He also had a very short kind of cameo on his wife's show. So we know that Jenny is actually a judge on the show The Masked Singer, and he actually participated on that show. He was the cock-a-doodle-doo, the rooster guy. And he unfortunately ended up getting eliminated, but he made it pretty far into, the advanced stages, and did really, really well on that show, by the way. I had no idea that he could actually sing, but he could actually sing, and he sounds quite fantastic. Now, he is also known to be quite the little troublemaker, especially back in the day. Little fun factoid, just in case you didn't know. In 1991, Donnie was charged with first-degree arson. I had no idea. After setting a fire at the historic Sealback Hotel in Louisville, Kentucky. At the time, he was known as pretty much the bad boy of the New Kids on the Block, and he was having an absolute rager. He was partying with one of his band members, Danny Wood, and then also a few of their fans. They were partying at the hotel. He got super drunk, super intoxicated, and ended up pouring vodka all over a hallway carpet and then igniting it. Like, this was bad. This ended in a lot of damage. He was in a lot of serious, serious trouble. Now, he got very, very lucky because, of course, he was a celebrity, is a celebrity, and that worked in his favor, and it actually ended up being reduced to a misdemeanor criminal mischief, and he really didn't have to spend any time in jail. He actually ended up having to do community service, and then they suspended his jail time after he agreed to appear in public service videos addressing fire safety, drug abuse, and drunk driving. When it comes to Donnie's love life and dating history, there really isn't much of one. Now, you would assume because he was such a bad boy and got into so much trouble, you would assume that he was a little bit of a ladies' man as well. But come to find out, Donnie really prefers to be in a relationship. He really prefers to be committed to someone, and he prefers to, to have somebody waiting at home for him. So he actually got married when he was pretty young. Now, he only has 3 known exes in Hollywood throughout his entire time of being famous, which is kind of unheard of. The first of which was his first wife. Her name was Kimberly Faye. She was a pretty renowned sound engineer and musician, and of course, they met while she was working on one of the New Kids on the Block's albums with Donnie. They met, instantly hit it off, and got married pretty quickly thereafter. They went public about their relationship in 1991. Now, Kimberly was 22 at the time, while Donnie was just a year younger at 21. Both babies at this point. They dated for about 8 years, so they were together for a good long time before they decided to really make it official and tie the knot. But they did. They ended up getting married 8 years after. They got married on August 22nd, 1999. During their marriage, they had 2 children together. They had both 2 little boys, the first of which, Xavier Alexander, on March 4th, 1993, and then their second son, Elijah Hendricks, on August 20th, 2001. So their children are a good long ways apart. I think they're 8 years apart. Their oldest son is now 30, while their youngest is 22. That's quite an age gap. Sadly, as Kim and Donnie's marriage progressed after they had their kids, things like that, it just got to be too much. The lines of communication started to break down, and their marriage just got very rocky very quickly. And ultimately, they ended up getting divorced. Now, they didn't divorce on bad terms. There was no bad blood between the two. I just genuinely think they just got tired of being together. So they filed for a divorce. Actually, Kim filed for an annulment. She wanted to annul the marriage. I believe it's because she didn't want to have a divorce on her record. But she filed for an annulment at the Los Angeles Superior Court, while Donnie filed his documents in Ventura County. Now, they waited a very long time to actually get the divorce started and to actually be divorced. They were separated for a very, very long time. They wanted to to be positive, to be certain beyond a shadow of a doubt that their marriage was well and truly over. And that took a good long while. But eventually it did happen. The divorce was eventually finalized. When they were doing all of the things, all of the things that you have to do in order to finalize a divorce, of course, there's children involved. So they had to talk about a custody arrangement, things like that. Now, Kim did ask for both child support, spousal support, and full custody of the children. However, they were able to reach a settlement outside of court. They ended up landing on joint physical custody of the children, and then she was granted spousal support and a small amount of child support. They went on have a pretty great co-parenting relationship with each other, and their children grew up happy and healthy and all of that good stuff. Now, as for Donnie's second relationship, it happened quite a while later on, and it was with a singer from Danity Kane. Does anybody remember Danity Kane? I think it was such a tiny blip on the radar, but he had a very short romance with Aubrey O'Day. Do you guys remember her? In 2008, rumors started to swirl that Aubrey and Donnie were kind of a thing, though it was never really confirmed or denied. The rumors got even worse when Donnie was caught out with Danity Kane member Aubrey O'Day. They first hooked up in June of 2008 when Donnie convinced Aubrey to go out on a romantic beach date with him. Now, apparently Donnie had seen Aubrey on TV and had thought that she was something special, was completely and totally into her. So he ended up finding out where she was, and he showed up one day and was just his super charming self and was just come out with me. Now, Aubrey was very, very hesitant at first. She just kind of wasn't interested, but eventually she kind of she crumbled and she agreed to go out on this romantic beach date with him. And apparently the beach date went way better than she was expecting it to go. And she kind of she had a very small infatuation with him. After that first beach date, they ended up going out again a couple of times together. They actually attended the premiere of Donnie's movie Righteous Kill together, and they were seen kind of canoodling and looking very, very cozy in the theater. However, pretty shortly thereafter, things kind of fizzled out. Don't know what exactly happened there because, again, the details are very, very hazy. We just know that they were very briefly linked together, and then all of a sudden they just weren't anymore. When Aubrey was asked in an interview if she was Donnie's girlfriend or anything like that, she said, nope, definitely not. Never been his girlfriend. We're just very close friends. And that's pretty much the cop-out for all of these celebrities when they really don't want to admit to a relationship. Oh yeah, we're just friends. Normal people do that stuff too. But yeah, their relationship, either was or it wasn't. But whatever it was very, very short. And then very shortly thereafter, he met Miss Jenny. And then, that's the rest of his life right there. Now, Jenny and Donnie first met in 2012 when they both had appearances on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. Now, for Donnie, the attraction to Jenny was instant and it was intense. However, even though he received quite a bit of encouragement from Andy Cohen, Andy was like, dude, ask her out. Like, she's like, you guys will be so perfect together. Donnie just wasn't sure that it was going to be like the right move. I think Donnie actually is pretty shy when it comes to women. That could explain why he's only had 3 relationships. However, no matter what happened, it just wasn't the time and it wasn't the place. And though they did have quite a bit of chemistry while they were together on the show, nothing ever really came of it. He just kind of like filed her name away, put it in the back of his brain, and decided that if they ever met again, that he would make his move. As luck would have it, they had no idea what fate had in store for them as a couple, because just a little while later, I think it was almost an entire year later, Jenny is actually the one who kind of extended an invitation to Donnie. She asked Donnie if he would mind coming on her show, the Jenny McCarthy show, and doing an interview. And of course, he was like, heck yeah, when and where, and I'll be there. Now, at this point, Jenny had her own talk show on VH1 called The Jenny McCarthy Show, and she would pretty much just do very comfortable, very laid-back interviews with celebrities, kind of ask them very risque, kind of daring questions. So she invites Donnie onto the show. He gets there, and y'all, it's like the chemistry is freaking, like you could cut the sexual tension with a freaking butter knife. Like the instant they kind of locked eyes onto each other, it was kind of like, you know, like biting the lip kind of thing. Like just insane, almost primal physical attraction between the two. It was like lightning energy, fires going off, like the alarm bells are ringing, and she's like, whew, she has to start kind of fanning herself because she's like, is it hot in here or is it just Donnie? So they do this interview, right? And she's asking him very risque questions. She's asking him what he likes in bed and what kind of women he prefers, things like that. And then ultimately, y'all, they end up laying down together on a beanbag, or like on a pile of beanbags, something. They end up laying down together, pretty much cuddling, while Donnie nibbles on her ear. And this is like a genuine, like freaking on-air interview. Was kind of insane. There was nobody on that filming crew or on that production team that didn't instantly know that her and Donnie were going to be in a relationship. Now, at this point, Jenny hadn't dated anybody in about a year. She'd been single for about a year, but Donnie hadn't been with anybody in almost 5 years. And I'm assuming Donnie's actually a pretty discerning guy. He doesn't just kind of jump into bed with anybody. But when it came to Jenny, he just could not control himself. And Jenny couldn't control herself with Donnie either. She's very not into giving men her number, things like that. She's very much into being chased and things like that. But when it came to Donnie, when he asked for her number, she was like, take it and make sure you call me. And he did. 2 weeks later, they go out on their very first date, and they've been pretty much inseparable since then. By July 13th, 2013, several months after Donnie's interview with her on the Jenny McCarthy show has aired, his rep confirms that they are indeed together in a committed monogamous relationship. They made their first official, public appearance as a couple in August 2013 at the Dancing with the Stars charity event at the Hotel Baker in St. Charles, Illinois. Now, this location is going to be important just a little bit later. So Jenny wore this really gorgeous figure-hugging halter black, classic kind of little black dress. And then Donnie is looking incredibly sharp in a classic black tux with a red boutonniere and a red pocket square. And they just made for such an arresting couple together. They're just, they look so fantastic. They were walking the red carpet, they were holding hands, and you could just tell by the way that they were looking at each other that they were madly, truly, deeply in love with each other. On April 16th, 2014, Jenny announced her engagement. So y'all, it really did not take very long, just about a year of them dating, for them to get engaged. When you know you've got a good thing, you lock it down. And that's exactly what Donnie did. While on The View, she broke the news by suddenly lifting her hand up from underneath the desk and flashing just like her gigantic 10-carat yellow sapphire engagement ring. Y'all, this ring is absolutely stunning. If I can find a picture of it, I will pop it up here. Beautiful ring. And of course, she took every opportunity that she could to show it off and flash it to the cameras. So you have Jenny announcing her engagement on The View, right? And you have all of her co-workers who are instantly getting up to hug her and congratulate her. She is jumping up and down on the stage with joy. And then you've got the audience who are like standing up and clapping and super happy for her. And then all of a sudden, Donnie comes out on stage and he just surprises her somehow, some way. I don't know, but he ended up being there at the exact perfect time. They probably had it planned beforehand. But Donnie ends up walking out on stage and they have this really beautiful moment on camera with them just kind of like hugging and just being like basking in the well wishes of everyone in the room. She goes on to tell the story of their engagement. She goes on to talk about how Donnie proposed to her. And she said, "This weekend, I was sitting with Donnie when he suddenly got up and went into the other room. I was like, what's going on?" He then sends my son Evan out, and Evan is holding a card and he hands it to me and it says Will on it. He goes back into the room, comes back out with another card and it says you, right? And at this point in time, she's like, what is going on? So Evan runs back into the other room and he comes out with another card and it says Mary. And at this point, Jenny just absolutely bursts out into freaking tears because at this point she knows exactly what's going on and she's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So she is absolutely bawling. And then Donnie walks out of the room with Evan, and Evan is holding a bouquet of roses, and on Donnie's shirt there is a big me with a question mark written on it. And so he gets down on one knee and he proposes to her, and it's a really beautiful, beautiful moment. Made even more beautiful by the fact that her son is just so happy about it. Donnie and Evan have a really fantastic relationship. Donnie really stepped up and really took on that fatherly role when he started his relationship with Jenny, something that Jim really never embraced as fully as she had wanted him to. So when Donnie comes into the picture and he embraces that role with, joy and like actually enjoys being there and enjoys being the father, things like that, it's kind of like it was so meant to be. So that her two favorite people in the world are just so happy about everything that's going on. And then her son ends up shouting, "I have another dad." And it's just, and my husband is not the biological father of our son, though he is the father of our son. You guys know, but it's just, it takes a very, very big man to raise another man's child, and to do so without any kind of bitterness or without any kind of ulterior motive, just to be there and to just love that child just because he wants to love that child. It takes a very big person to do that. So I have an incredible amount of respect for any man that is willing to do that, and Jenny feels very much the same way. So it just, everything kind of piled on together. It was just a perfectly beautiful freaking moment, and it was the perfect setup for what the rest of their lives would be. They got married on August 31st, 2014, just after about 4-month long engagement period, guys. So like, it's like when I said, when you know, when it's right, why wait? And Jenny had kind of agonized over, do we wait? Do we have a long engagement? Do we plan this really big elaborate wedding? Or do we just go get married and just have family there and just like have a nice little party and just enjoy it, and then, very quickly start our lives together? She also agonized over the fact that she didn't know, she's already got a child and she's already been married before, so she didn't know if she should have like a white dress or if she should try at the time there was a blush pink dress trend kind of going around with celebrities, and she wasn't sure if she wanted the pink dress or the white dress. Guys, they ended up deciding they just could not wait. So they got married. They had a 4-month long engagement and got married pretty much as quickly as they could. They got married at the very same venue that they debuted as publicly as a couple. So remember when I talked about the Hotel Baker in St. Charles, Illinois, that is exactly where they ended up getting married. She loved the venue. and it was kind of, like poignant because that was where they came out to the world as a couple was. So why not get married there as well? So that's where they get hitched. They invited their closest friends and family. It was a fairly small and intimate wedding, but beautiful nonetheless. The room was decorated with roses. There were flowers absolutely everywhere. And they danced their first dance as husband and wife to Edelweiss from The Sound of Music. Ultimately, when it comes to the dress, she decided to wear something that was a little bit more traditional, but not like super like virginal bride kind of wear. She ended up wearing a dress from Bergdorf Goodman, while the guest list included Jenny's co-hosts from The View, Donnie's New Kids from the Block, bandmates, people like that. Just their very closest friends and family. Was not a gigantic affair at all whatsoever. Now, at the reception during the toasts, Jenny, of course, got incredibly emotional, and she said, "As a little girl, you dream of Prince Charming, and yet you're always disappointed in the end because no one meets the expectations. Donnie has surpassed them all by far." Then Evan, y'all, this little boy Evan, I swear to you, is just absolutely the cutest freaking thing ever, because Evan then grabs the microphone from his mom and he says, I love my stepdad, and I'm so glad for my mom. We're going to make a great family." Y'all, it's just like, I'm so freaking happy for them. I'm happy for this little boy. I'm happy for Jenny. She finally found a good one. She found someone who wants to stick around. Like, she found her forever. Like, it's such a fantastic, amazing freaking feeling when that happens. Just like, you can't help but be happy for somebody when that happens. Now, since then, life has been an absolute freaking dream. She says every night she crawls into bed with her husband. She feels like she's crawling into bed with her best friend. It's like they have sleepovers every night. It never gets old. It never gets stale. She's so incredibly in love. Now, right after they got married, they actually ended up doing their own TV show, and it was called Donnie Loves Jenny, or Jenny Loves Donnie, something like that. And it was fantastic. If you never watched it, see if you can find it somewhere, because it gives you a really good sneak peek into who they were as a couple. And y'all, they're just so freaking adorable together. You can tell that they give each other crap all the time, and they're just like everything's a joke, and they don't ever really take anything too seriously, and they have such similar senses of humor and things like that. They're just so incredibly adorable together. It's just it's almost nausea inducing. So their show Donnie Loves Jenny premiered on January 7th 2015 on A&E, and the show ended up running for about 3 seasons. And I do remember watching quite a few of those episodes and really liking that show. I know that Mark Wahlberg actually ended up cameoing on it quite often. I've always had a thing for Marky Mark. I think he's just about as scrumptious as they come. But that show kind of showed off how they were acted together, things like that. It also kind of really focused on how they cope because they spend so much time apart as well. And I also think that is another big factor in the reason that their relationship is as successful as it is, because they do spend very long stretches of time when they're just not together, because he does still tour with his band, and he still has music commitments, things like that. He also films for Blue Bloods, and I believe he does that in New York and not LA. So he does travel quite a bit. But she said that when they're alone, when they're apart, they oftentimes will FaceTime together before they go to sleep, and they'll sleep on FaceTime next to each other. So that's one of the ways that they continue to stay connected. But absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I feel especially when you're just up somebody's behind all the time, all day, every day, it can be a little bit difficult to really understand why this is still happening. But when you get the luxury of really separating and then coming back together, because the coming back together is the sweetest part of the entire thing. So it really does in a way keep the relationship fresh and new and fun and exciting. Now, the last episode of Donnie Loves Jenny, it aired on April 13th 2016, and it was a pretty big success for them as a couple. As a preventative measure, though, where they were asked how they have maintained and managed to stay together, because they've been together now at this point for over a decade, and they said that one of the biggest things they do is they attend therapy. Y'all, I think a lot of these very successful marriages, therapy is always mentioned. Some kind of counseling in some way, because it is so difficult to communicate. I feel like there is very much something lost in transition between what, you know, a female says and a male hears. Like there's a lot of like negative space there. However, when you go to therapy, you really learn how to communicate, you really learn how to talk to each other. And even if you go and like they do it as a preventative measure, if you can just go and you can talk to each other and figure each other out, figure out how to say things in a way that doesn't come off as accusatory or just like nagging, things like that, it just makes life so much easier. And all of these really successful celebrity couples, they always say that therapy is the key. Lord, I'll tell you what, if I was in a different tax bracket, I feel like therapy would be such an amazing thing. However, us, you know, just us peasants, us regular folk, we just kind of got to figure it out any which way that we can. For their 7th anniversary in 2021, Donnie surprised Jenny with a surprise vowel renewal, and during that time he said, 7 years, no itch. I love you more now than ever, Mrs. Wahlberg. To be blessed with a partner whose goal is to make sure that I love myself more and more each day is to be truly blessed. He said, thank you for holding me down while always also holding my kite strings so that I may fly. You are my soulmate in every way. Now, Donnie did the same thing the next year as well. He surprised her again in 2022 for their 8th anniversary and did a whole nother big like vowel renewal party. She ate every second of it up. She absolutely loved it. Now, while Jenny is incredibly loved, she is very much a beloved public figure, she is not without her own little forms of controversy. For the most part, a lot of the controversy surrounding her name stems from her autism activism, right? Because when it came to her son was diagnosed with autism when he was 2.5 years old, and by that time like it was just a big deal. He was having like really terrible seizures. He was having like one of the seizures led to a cardiac arrest that almost unalived him, and he was a baby at this time. He was only 2.5 years old. So of course, any mother, like as any mother would do that loves her child, she instantly dove into research. She's trying to figure out how she can make it better. What can she do to help her son? And she found something that worked for her, right? It worked for her child. And that was changing his diet, giving him all kinds of vitamins, things like that. And because it worked for her child, she kind of took that and ran with it. And she kind of flies when she opened her nonprofit, she kind of did it under the banner that autism is reversible. Now, the reason that this is so controversial is because it's just not true. And she also is very anti-vaccination. Now, when her son started getting these seizures that led to the autism diagnosis, they started happening right after he got his MMR vaccination, which is measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination. And she did the Google thing and she researched, and there are some kind of theories out there that the MMR vaccine is linked to autism, things like that. But there's actually no scientific backing to any of those theories. But she takes that, she kind of runs with it. So a lot of experts really just, they're not appreciative of what she's doing, just because it's almost like she's kind of spouting, they call her uninformed. The theories and the explanations that she's giving are unfounded. So it's kind of like, well, she's spreading mistruth, basically, is what's happening. And the experts really, really do not like that. So they definitely have a problem. She also is like very hardcore anti-vaccination, that kind of thing. And of course, you know, the specialists, experts, things like that, they want you to get your vaccinations. That you need to get your vaccinations because that's what guards us from like things like Black Plague and things like that. So it is a double-edged sword. And though her lifestyle works for her and it did help her son, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to help everyone. So her going out and preaching about the don't get your kids vaccinated and don't let them eat this and just things like that, it's just kind of like it's more hurtful than it is helpful. Now, Jenny launched her own beauty brand in 2001 called Formless Beauty. She started off with just lip glosses and has since then expanded the range to now include an eyeshadow palette and a mascara. She has the Bronzed Beauty eyeshadow quad that goes for $39. She has a do-it-all kind of mascara. It goes for $42. And then she has her lip glosses and they go for $26 a piece. So definitely a higher end luxury price point. However, the packaging looks really, really nice. The lip glosses and things like that have really great reviews. So I'm interested to see how she expands it in the future. It's still a teeny tiny little baby brand, so there's a lot of work to do ahead of her for sure. I think the best part of the whole thing is though that every single year, in order to promote the bundles for her beauty brand, she releases a Christmas card with Donnie, and they do like these sexy Christmas cards. I'll pop up a picture of the last one, but they're freaking adorable. So super cute and kind of a genius marketing strategy. Guys, that is it for this week's True Love Tuesday. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed telling it. Really, really fun couple. Very happy for them, especially happy for Jenny's little boy. Seems like he's got a really fantastic dad there now. Guys, I love you so very much. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today. It means more to me than you will ever know. If you did enjoy today's video, please make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. Super appreciate that. This is today's finished look. Do we like it? Do we love it? Let me know in the comments below. I will, of course, be posting finished pictures over on Instagram and Facebook. The links will be in the description box. Guys, until next time, stay safe. Take care of yourselves, and remember, you're important. Bye.